Joining us now is Oakland County Executive David Coulter, who recently made his State of the County address. Executive, thank you for being with us this morning.
Tyler, always great to be with you. Thanks.
Appreciate having you on. So can you touch on some of the highlights of the topics that you emphasized last night at the State of the County address? It was the night before the date that we are recording this, and that this is live on the Oakland County Megacast. And obviously, it's been another complicated year here in Oakland County. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of different factors to consider. What are some of the highlights that you went over last night at your State of the County address?
Yeah, thanks. What I really tried to do is lay out sort of a 5-year roadmap for the future. What does Oakland County really need to make sure that it's paying attention to, leaning into, investing in over the next 5 years to make sure that we remain a competitive and great place to live? And so, some of those buckets include a strong economy, right? We know that Oakland County is a good place economically. You can get a good job here. But are we doing enough for our small businesses? So I touched on that. Safe and healthy communities. That's safe and healthy people, I should say. And we know how important that is. Our health, but also our communities being safe places. And we talked about that. And then finally, I kind of have this last bucket that I would just say, letting people live their best lives. The kinds of things like parks and trails and workforce development that really help make this an exceptional county to be. So I laid out this 5-year plan, and just as importantly, I want to say this. I want to hold us accountable. We have goals and we have measures, and we're going to have data around these plans. And now, as of now, you can go to our website at oakgov.com, and all of these goals will be there, and the measures will be there. So you can hold us accountable to achieving the things that I talked about last night.
We're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Megacast. More information on their website, oakgov.com. And so a big factor in all of this over the last couple of years has been COVID-19, and it looks like we're in a much more relaxed place now, and things are looking up for the first time in a long time as we've been dealing with this pandemic. But COVID-19 is not going away just yet. So at this moment in time in Oakland County, what's been the conversation between your office, between the board, and of course between the Oakland County Health Division and its approach to continuing to protect the community and advise the community on what is happening on the COVID-19 front, while also understanding that uncertainty should be playing a factor into plans for the future?
Yeah, it's a great question because, as you put it so well, COVID is not over, but as the numbers indicate, as the transmission rate indicates, we are at a different place now. Our transmission rate now is considered low by CDC standards, which is what we've used from the beginning. They've modified those standards somewhat, but we are at a low transmission rate. And so that allows us to do more free things. We don't have the mask requirement in schools right now or in indoor settings. So the transmission rates have guided this. We've tried to follow the science as best we could from the beginning of this. As you indicate, there could be spikes. Our health department is always monitoring this on a daily basis. And we're also talking to our health system, our hospitals, to see what's happening there. So the good news is, we are at a different place, and that's what made me feel comfortable giving sort of a more of a forward-looking 5-year outlook versus just talking about how we're going to get through, the pandemic and the terrible things, that has wreaked on us. So I do think we're in a very different place, but well said. We may have to reinstitute measures at some point, depending on what the virus forces us to do.
And you mentioned refocusing goals for the county going forward in that 5-year plan, some of those benchmarks, some of the ways that you, and by you I mean the county, is aiming to accomplish those goals. Something else to refocus on after COVID-19, or as we begin to find our way maybe out of the COVID-19 pandemic, is the role of public health in our communities. Because in the past, it's been, of course, preventing spread of the disease, whether it's West Nile virus outbreaks, or if it's the seasonal flu or common cold or some other disease that may be coming through the community. That's kind of been that role. But we've seen over the course of the pandemic, not just COVID-19, but other conditions that have previously been kind of pushed to the side, such as mental health, being something that's considered much more critical to the public health now in the context of what we've been through with COVID-19. How does that help to inform both your office and the Oakland County Health Division in refocusing its goals going forward?
You bring up a great point. Mental health was a problem before COVID. Not enough people had access. But it's a crisis now. And I've often said that if there's a silver lining to COVID, maybe there's a couple, but one of them is that the stigma around mental health has gone down. It used to be that people were reluctant to get help because they didn't want to be identified as somebody that needed help. But frankly, what we've seen in COVID, anybody can have a mental health issue just like you get a physical health issue. You can be rich or poor, black or white, live in the city or the suburb. It hits everybody. And so one of the things I talked about during this speech is that we're investing $13 million of our American Rescue Plan dollars on mental health services. So that's going to cover our nonprofits in the county, so that if you're a resident and you need access to mental health services, I encourage you to reach out, and we're going to be able to meet another 66,000 people's needs in Oakland County. But we're also going to invest in our students in school, and we're going to invest in our hospitals so that the people that have a mental health crisis and show up in the ER can get help when they get there. So we're leaning in and trying to address the need. But I want to encourage all your listeners, anyone can get it. And if you feel like you have, any kind of issues, it's just like a physical health issue. Get it taken care of.
We're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Oakland County Megacast. More information on their website, oakgov.com, for more information on county programs and plans going forward, and of course to review and watch for yourself the State of the County address that Executive Coulter made earlier on the week of this recording, on this live broadcast. Again, we're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Oakland County Megacast. Another driving force in the future plans of Oakland County is, of course, on the business end of things. We've seen our commercial businesses, our retail businesses really across the board have also taken a large hit during the COVID-19 pandemic. But we're also seeing there is this sort of drive for industry here in Oakland County and in southeastern Michigan, really across the state, from a variety of different industries, including the automotive industry, really investing in electric vehicle production here in Michigan and here in Oakland County. How much of a role does that play? Does that investment by many different companies, including General Motors here locally, play into Oakland County's plans going into the future?
Yeah, I started my speech by driving into the auditorium in a Chevy Bolt that's made at the Orient Assembly Plant, the GM plant, to highlight the fact that, GM made a $4 billion investment there, the largest investment they've ever made in the history of their company, and the largest private investment ever made in Oakland County. So it was a huge thing, and I think it reaffirms that Michigan is a competitive place in the EV market and that we can compete and win in this space. But what I also talked about in my speech is this: those kinds of big wins are wonderful and we celebrate them when we get them. But most businesses in Oakland County are small businesses, 50 people or less. And that's where we really have to make sure that we're leaning in and giving the resources that they need. Over the last couple of years, we've given 15,000 of them support through the county through grants and toolkits and the like. But going forward, we're going to really lean in on those small businesses. We created a new team, and I announced this at the speech, called Business Forward. And these are 9 business consultants who are not going to work in the office, but are going to work directly in the communities with small businesses, helping make sure that they have the resources, the support, the grant writing, whatever it is that they need to be successful, they can help our small businesses, because that's really the backbone of our economy here in Oakland County.
Especially as we add more industry to Oakland County, another topic that comes to mind is sustainability. That's been a significant buzzword in politics, in industry, in government for a number of years as we attempt to maintain a certain quality of life in our society, but also balance that with the need to protect the environment so that we are able to live that quality of life for a significant amount of time. Later this hour, we'll be joined by Dr. Majgan Raji from Oakland University, who's part of the leadership team from their university sustainability plan. Can you talk about the partnership between the county and Oakland University on sustainability in Oakland County and making plans to accelerate into the future, but do so in a way that is thoughtful, that is considerate, and that is prudent to maintaining our environment?
Yeah, I'm so glad he's going to be your guest. He's smarter about this than I am. The great folks at Oakland University are really leaning into this space and really have become recognized leaders in this space of sustainability at the higher ed level. And we're, I think, really blessed to have Oakland University in this county. And so I announced at my speech a brand new partnership with Oakland University, where they're going to help us do the data and the research and the strategic planning around environmental sustainability. And I can't thank them enough for their help, because, as you said, this is a critical, a moral issue, frankly. If we can do all the other things right, and if we don't figure out how to protect the health of this planet so that we survive as a species, it's all going to be for naught. So I think we have a responsibility to ourselves and our future generations to make sure that we're working in this space as well as we can.
We're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Oakland County Megacast. More information from Oakland County, including everything you need to know about the State of the County address that occurred earlier earlier on in this week, that we are both broadcasting live and recording this particular interview on their website, oakgov.com, for more information. oakgov.com to learn more. And so we have a significant Ukrainian population here in southeastern Michigan, really across the state of Michigan, and here in Oakland County especially. Obviously, our thoughts are with those in Ukraine and those of Ukrainian descent, with Ukrainian friends and family who are affected by the barbaric Russian invasion of Ukraine. Knowing that we have such a significant Ukrainian American population and so many that have family and friends or others in their life that are over in Ukraine, what sort of support, either to resources or assisting in directing to resources, is maybe provided through Oakland County to residents who may want to help those in Ukraine as they're dealing with this crisis?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's so devastating what's happening there. The Russian invasion is just unbelievably unacceptable. And I think a lot of us thought we would not see something like that in our lifetime. And as you mentioned, we have a significant Ukrainian American population in this county and in this region. And it was important for me as a leader to stand up and support the democracy that they're fighting so hard to protect. I went to a Ukrainian prayer vigil in Southfield, where there's a Ukrainian church there. It was beautiful. I went there with my friend Andrei Duzhi, who's a leader in the Ukrainian community that I've known for many, many years. I was really proud of the fact that we lit up our county building in the blue and gold of the Ukrainian flag to show support for those folks. And as you said, we're also working to get resources as we can and to help coordinate that for our residents to donate. I would also encourage you, because there's been some bad actors in this field, that if you go to the attorney, and I've talked to the Attorney General about this, because she's very concerned. As always, unfortunately, there's bad characters that try to make money off of these sort of tragedies, which is disgusting to me. But if you go to her website, the Attorney General's website, she's also tracking who not to give money to, who to give and to not give money to. So I encourage your folks to do them. And then just otherwise, if you're a praying person, to hold the folks in Ukraine in your prayers and thoughts, because they need all of our strength right now.
Yeah, we had a couple of interviews recently too with more information on how you can determine legitimate actors in relief for Ukraine. We had Sam Rosenberg on yesterday, who's a co-founder of Share Detroit, and they just created a new effort, Share Ukraine, at shareukraine.org. And we had Melanie Ducanel from the Michigan Better Business Bureau on with us recently, also talking about those charity scams really early on in the crisis over in Ukraine. So all those good resources, those are on civiccentertv.com/megacast, where you can view both of those interviews. And of course, the Attorney General's office, always helpful in their information on avoiding scams. We're joined by Oakland County Executive David Coulter on the Oakland County Megacast. Last week, related to the Attorney General's office, you were part of a press conference with the Attorney General, with Dana Nessel, as well as Oakland County Sheriff Michael Bouchard, talking about a $26 billion opioid settlement with the nation's three major pharmaceutical distributors, Cardinal McKesson and AmerisourceBergen, as well as Johnson & Johnson. Can you talk about the settlement, how it affects Oakland County, and more particularly, how it affects providing the services and providing the aid that's needed to those that have been affected by the opioid crisis right here in Oakland County?
Yeah, and it is a crisis. There's no question. I think we've all seen that overdoses and deaths are up. in particular because of fentanyl, which is just so much more deadly, and that these opioids have been overprescribed and oversold by these pharmaceuticals. They were wrong, and they got caught for it, and they should have got caught for it, and they have been penalized significantly. And Oakland County is one of the counties that's joined the lawsuit early on, back in 2016, I believe, before I was executive, but I supported it. We did the same when I was mayor of Ferndale, because it's important that we hold these companies responsible for the devastating effects. And we've all seen them. We've seen it in our family. We've seen the addiction that's happened. And so we're going to get a sizable portion of that money, but we're going to get it over 10 years. So it's going to be about $1.5 million a year for the next 10 years. And as promised in the settlement, we'll use every dime of that money to go into drug-related programs, whether it's prevention programs, treatment programs. I'm working with my health director right now to figure out exactly the best way to spend that money. We haven't got it yet, but every nickel of that will go into helping give families and individuals relief from this awful epidemic that we're faced with.
Executive Coulter, just another couple minutes with you before we'll say goodbye today. Anything else at this time that would be important for Oakland County residents to keep in mind in terms of county programs or things that are on the docket that people should be looking forward to and keeping themselves informed on here in Oakland County?
Well, you did a great job of hitting on the main theme, so I really appreciate it. Maybe the last thing I'll throw in is, and I shared this in the State of the County, we've all seen how important our parks are. Sometimes we forget about them or forget the importance of them, but I think in COVID we all found out how important it was to get outside, get some fresh air, connect with nature, reconnect with ourselves. And one of the things I talked about last night is, one of the assets in Oakland County is that we have 138 miles of trails, which are amazing, but my goal, and I stated it at the speech, is to get us to 400 miles. I think I'd love to see a web of trails throughout our communities, throughout our counties, and in the region, so that we can bike ride and ride, walk and whatever else we want to do to get out into nature. So our green spaces continue to be an important asset in Oakland County.
Executive, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Great to see you as always.